Hello and welcome to another one of Bridge Burners tutorials for Ultimate Doombuilder. Today we're going to be looking at the slope handle tool, which is a relatively new feature added to Ultimate Doombuilder, and some of the accompanying functions, predominantly the arch tool, which is a very handy thing as well. And then a very new feature we'll just briefly go through because it's quite similar to an old one, which is the new version of the vertex slope handles. Or slope points. It is now usable on 3D floors, but you have to set it up. So we'll draw a new area to build some arches in, and we'll build a dome as well, but we'll go through the basics of the tool first. So as anyone who's worked with things like Zdo for a while, there's been quite a variety of methods of sloping things over the years, with all of them pretty useful, but with various limitations. Planar line, the UDMF slope fields, vertex slopes, slope things, lots of options, and copy plane. Everything's kind of been deprecated now by this new feature. So what you need to do first is go into controls and find the slope picker function, toggle visual side def slope picking. That will not be bound to start with. You'll need to pick a key. I use Shift W. It used to ship, when it was first introduced, it was pre-bound, but it would fuck up people who had rebound their movement keys to WASDF. So Boris decided to not have it bound anymore by default. So pick what you want. I like Shift W. And that is all you need to begin slope handling. So it's a visual mode function, literally Shift W, and you'll see it switch to this. So the yellowy orange, I'm colorblind, I don't know, it's kind of that color. That is the part that will move, and the blue is the pivot point. Left click will select the moving section, and right click will select the pivot point. The pivot point will do like a smart selection if you don't choose anything, and then it's just a case of rolling your mouse wheel up and down, same way that you move sectors. If you've got up and down by 128, you can use that to move by 128, and then shift to move by increments of 1. And that's it. That's the slope handle. You don't need to align it with anything. You can do it on weird shapes. Well, I actually selected the actual main floor there, so you notice that the side that it's fading to, that's the sector that it's going to move. So I selected that one by mistake, and it moved the entire fucking floor. But if I select that one there, it'll move this weird shaped piece. I can change, you can slope it like that, and then you go, well, now I actually want to slope it on this angle. Move from there to there. You can do like these multi kind of planar angles, tweak things, whatever you want. It's really easy to use and really versatile. You can make like a beveled slope as well. So say you wanted to kind of like create a pipe kind of design, which would normally be very difficult. Let's lift that up. Put a bit of a bevel on the side, like so. And then what you can do is slope handles can affect multiple sectors. So in sector mode, select the sectors you want to slope. Move to picking mode, so don't clear any of your selection. Select where you want to move, and then the pivot point, and the whole thing will move up. Which that flattened itself out. Sorry, I've done this in the wrong order. There we go. Fix that. So you can actually bevel slopes like that as well. And you can do create pipes that go up and down quite easily like that. And the other advantage is that this works on 3D floors. So let's create the same kind of shape. Make this a 3D floor. I do have a 3D floor tutorial already, so I won't go into the features are here any more than I need to explain the slope handles. But yeah, if you want to know how to use a 3D floor mode, there is a tutorial already up on YouTube. Go check it out. So because of the way that 3D floors work, you do need to separate it all out into different slopes. Otherwise, because these are all the same tag, they'll move as one. So split you up, boink. Now these will move separately. Move those up. And then put the bevel on. And then you can do the underside. Select the pivot point. So historically doing something like this would have been very, very difficult. Getting that plane set up correctly, almost impossible in the old methods. So you can do some really cool shapes really easily, and if you don't like it, well, it's easy to tweak. You know, I'll just lift those up a little bit. Yeah, maybe move that down. You can change the shapes really, really quickly. So yeah, that is the basis of the slope handle. Boris has a couple of really good videos as well around how to use these, which I might add to my YouTube page actually with his permission and link them. Because they're really good little demonstrations as well of how to use it. So that is the basis of the slope handles. A feature that came out of that was after the slope handles were kind of introduced is the arch tool. It uses these slope handles to form a smooth arch. Now, again, this is a thing that a variety of ways to build originally. Dragonfly had a really good tutorial on arches. So there's a couple ways to start off. Essentially, you want lots of little divisions so that the arch tool will do this kind of smooth curve. And there's a few ways to do it. One way is to use the draw grid mode, which you can use to create a sine. It's a sine incremented divisions, which will give you a very nice curve, like the best curve. But what that can lead to is a lot of very short lines, depending on what kind of geometry you're making. So we'll do this first. Now what you want to do is select from one end to the other, and this is where the paint tool is quite useful, all of the sectors that make up the slope in the order that from one end to the other. Select the very end handles, so it's got to be the very end. And then what is my slope tool? There we go, Control F. And then you've got these various functions. You can go up, go down, flip it, whatever you want. So its default is a perfect equal arch, same distance across as up, but you can mess with the various settings to create different profiles. Sorry, I'm in the wrong mode. Boink. So you've got to be in slope mode. Boink. So say you wanted like a double, like twice as tall as it was wide, 200% scale, it'll stretch it out. Reverse, 50%, bit more like a bit of a flatter curve, and then you can mess with the angle to create like a flatter curve or a steeper curve, and you know, you can combine those features to create various profiles, pointed arches, that kind of stuff. And then the height offset, all that literally does is move the whole edifice up by that amount. So 64 moves that low point up by 64 units. You can copy paste it. And you've got a pointed arch profile. I use that a lot in Bastion of Chaos. You'll see a lot of that shape in Doom Eternal. Play with it. It's pretty easy to use once you get the hang of it. The important thing is to make sure you select all the sectors you want to slope, and then the slope handles at the end of the arch. You can do a single curve from one end to the other. So back to draw grid. We'll do this at 128. Oops. So select all the sectors, which we might do this one on the ceiling. Bring that down. Slope handle. Select the very ends. Boink, boink. And you see if you use this middle function, it's a perfect single curve. It is a little bit limited in the kinds of shapes you can create. You can't do a pointed arch this way, but you can make some nice, smooth arch profiles with this one, no problem. So kind of pointed, but not actually pointed, more of an elongated kind of egg shape. So that is the full curve function as part of that. So yeah, I recommend having a play with it and kind of finding how what kind of profiles you like to create. You can then texture things, and the auto scale will work quite nicely if you use the right texture. So you want something with a repeating side and seams on one, something like this. The metal's good. You'll see that'll actually align pretty nicely up the side there. It's not working out horizontally because it's a little bit too wide. Maybe we'd use that one instead. There you go. Not 100% perfect, like you can see it's not quite lining up, but pretty damn good. So with some good texture choice, you can create a nicely textured arch like that as well. Here you go. Looks pretty good, doesn't it? So that's the arch tool. And there are some limitations for it. So one of the things that people like to do with the arch tool, people like myself and Mr. Gazebo, is make a dome. So we're going to make a dome. So what you want to do is create a wedge that is one section of arch. This is where I would generally not recommend using the draw grid tool. I would do this manually, the separations. So in order to do that, you want to use the grid align to line up with the side here. And instead of doing like a perfect sine separation, you want a narrow cluster that gets your sector separation start narrow and get wider as you go to the flatter part of the arch. So something like a 16 wide for this kind of size would work. You do 4 of those and then maybe go to 32 for a couple. And then a wider one at the top. And you'll get a feel for what kind of separations work best. You want to be line efficient, but that's generally the idea. And kind of 4 clusters of 4 or 2, depends on the detailing you want and the actual arch profile. So it's something to play with, and you'll get a feel for that. So we're just going to bring this down a touch. Now, the arch tool needs a straight line on the end, which is just a limitation of it. So in this situation, you can either leave this section flat, or what you need to do is actually square off the edge. The best way to do this, I'll show you one kind of problem with the arch tool that you need to work around, and that is it needs parallel sides as well. Actually, maybe it doesn't. I thought it did. No, it does not. I have had issues with that in the past where I have had sloped edges and it's kind of ended up a bit fritzy, but that has actually worked quite well. So if you do have an issue, the way to fix it is to carve a straight line chunk out of the middle. Something like this, sorry, that you can work from, where all the lines are parallel, and then set the curve there, and then merge it back and forward. So merge like that to propagate it back across the original shape. But that appears to work quite nicely. Bring that down. So now you've got a piece of your dome. And then all you need to do is copy paste it around. That's why I used a 24-sided ellipse. And that will create the dome profile. Now there's a lot of kind of advanced architectural designs you can do with this. I'm not going to go into them today. I will do an advanced kind of dome shape tutorial at some point, possibly with some advice from Insane Gazebo, who is very good at this kind of thing. Copy paste these in bigger chunks. looks like that's 3. Let's get the last one. Nice paint tool, very handy for this kind of stuff. And there you have a dome. You can start doing some edge detailing if you wanted. Little straight section at the bottom, texture that differently, start building out from that. The other great thing about the slope handles is no matter what you do to those sectors, they will stay in position. So vertex slopes, plane align, all those older methods, if you started messing with what you'd built, you'd often end up with your slopes breaking. So if I wanted, say for instance, I wanted to carve a little section out of the middle of each arch. Do that. Merge that with there. I mean, this is going to look pretty weird, but if you wanted to do that, you can do that, and the slope around it stays because it is actually a sector property. So go into the Edit Sector tab, Slopes Portals, and you'll see this. There's some fields filled in here. Rotation, that sets the angle of the slope in terms of its orientation in flat space. Slope angle, it's the angle of the slope, and then height offset. That's what, when you set those arches, that's part of the calculations that it uses. If you want to clear the slopes, you don't like it, there's a shit, I don't like this bit here, reset button will reset the slopes. Cool, that's done something wacky. Oh, that's that one. Sometimes it does do some weird shit with the values, so this is an ongoing issue, and in certain edge case scenarios, a weird value will appear in one of these boxes, zero it out, and then you might have to manually send it back to where it's meant to be. Another way, yeah, it does happen sometimes. It can be frustrating. I've had some very odd shit happen, particularly as Boris is improving and adding in new features to this kind of stuff. They can end up breaking. So if that does happen, don't panic. Come and talk to someone. Message me. Talk to someone in Hellforge. Talk to Boris in his UDB Discord. Leave a message for me on YouTube. Whatever it is, it does happen. And worst case scenarios, you have to delete it and start again. But the best way to do it is to zero out or reset these properties here. So you saw that one before was like negative 21,000. Obviously that's not a number that you want. Or delete the sector, remake it, that kind of stuff. Because one thing you will notice is if you've got a sloped sector, say here, and then you draw off into the void, it will copy those properties. So, because a new sector will always draw its properties from an existing sector, if you're building off a sloped structure, it will take that slope with you. So this is where you go back into here, reset that, flattens it back out, and then you can do what you want. So that reset button is very handy. Do not forget about it. Fix 99% of any problems that you do have arise from the slope handle usage. I think that's probably it for the basics. I will mention one other thing. It's an adjacent kind of tool that's not specific to slopes, but is very, very handy. So say you had, let's build a 3D arch. Draw grid. Oops. Fucking hell. Do this right. Finally. So we'll make these out of 3D floors. Single 3D floor to start with. We'll just lift the bottom up a little bit. So this is all one 3D floor. Lift that up a touch to there. I'm going to move you out of the way. So again, like I said, if you want different slope angles, you need to have individual 3D floors. So 3D floor mode split will now be separately tagged. It can be waggled individually. Give itself a little bit of room. Same deal as before with the non-3D floor ones. Select panels at the end, select all the sectors. Yeah, let's bring that down. And there we've got our arch. Very nice. So exactly the same process. You just need to separate the 3D floors out first, but everything else behaves the same. Now, anyone who's made 3D floor slopes knows that if you move these, they will break. They used to break. So what Boris has done is the editor now calculates what it needs to do to change the position of the slopes to make sure that they work. What will still break is if you just straight copy paste it. So these will have the same tag. Now look at it. It's all over the place. Because these essentially act as a window into an infinite plane. And when you cut that window in a different spot, the slope is now in a different height or a different rotation. If I move this, rotate this like that, it's going to get real wacky. That's funny. It actually moved those ones. So they stayed in the same rotation and then these ones broke. So when you are trying to make a complicated 3D arch structure and you want to copy paste stuff, there is a new feature. Oh, I just remembered I did not talk about the arch tool in here. Arch between slope handles. Visual mode function, you will need to bind that. I've got a Control F. So make sure you do that. But the other one, copy geometry, that's what it's called. Duplicate and paste geometry, that's the one. So what this will do is it will copy paste 3D floor structures. You have to select something with a 3D floor in it, and it will give it a new tag. It will create a new 3D floor control sector for any 3D floors in that selection. It will also copy non-3D floors, but it has to have at least one 3D floor in the selection for this to work. And it is primarily for 3D floors. You don't have to be in 3D floor mode. Actually, no, you do, sorry. You do have to be in 3D floor mode. Control W, it will... Oops. Let's try that again. There we go. Give this new control sectors. So if I tried to do that with just standard copy paste, that'll all be broken. Standard normal copy paste, flip it around. Yep, doing weird shit. Not weird shit. And you can do some pretty crazy stuff. You do need to copy geometry each time. You can't just then go paste, paste, paste. It won't work. But now you can make pretty complex 3D sloped structures really, really easily. So that is the copy, duplicate and paste geometry function. Definitely a very, very handy one and a real game changer with regards to the kind of structures you can make. I will just show the kinds of things you can make with this tool. And like I said, I'm pretty keen to do a more advanced tutorial on how to actually make these, but this is the kind of stuff that that you can make, which you never really used to be able to with the old tools. Of course, opening Bastard Chaos takes a long time. So here I made some flying buttresses. This was when the slope tool had just been added. The slope handle tool. So you can see these curved flying buttresses. So I made these slopes manually. Still work pretty well. But the real wizardry was this room. And this is a design that IG definitely pioneered in terms of Doom. So you've got these big vaulted, curved ceilings that meet on these seams, and then there's these arched windows, and then more curved buttresses, with like an arch one way and a reverse arch the other, completely 3D. So you can do some really cool stuff. And this was made by setting up the slope, copying it around, and then splitting it, merging it on these seams. So there is a methodology to it, but we're not going to go into that one today. But you can do really, really fun stuff. Make these sloped curved arches there, nice pointed arch there. Slope handles and arch tool are overpowered. So that's it for today. Hopefully that was helpful. Mildly disjointed because there's quite a few steps to do it. But once you get the hang of the tools, even if you fuck up, it's still pretty easy to do it again. Like they're quick to use. So if you mess something up and it's not quite coming out right, you can delete it and start again without wasting too much time. And it's definitely something that you get better with experimentation and playing around with it and figuring out what kind of things you like to make what shapes you enjoy, and then you can make some cool arches and domes. So thanks for watching. We will be back with another tutorial after this, probably architectural precision, which I think is one that people have been waiting for a while. Cheers, and we'll see you next time.